She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our second installment of the Bedtime Stories from Beyond. Tonight we're going to be discussing strange creatures. Always through the paranormal, there's been sightings of these creatures that defy our understanding of being humanoid. They are large, they are huge, they are muscular. Some of them are extraordinarily skinny. Some of them seem to defy explanation itself. Some of these you'll know, some seem familiar, and others of these may be a total surprise. So hang on, ladies and gentlemen, because we're going in. Strange creatures, ladies and gentlemen, that's tonight's topic of our Bedtime Stories from Beyond. And this is a topic that I really love discussing. Of course, I'm a big fan of Bigfoot. I'm extraordinarily curious about the Dogman, and those are two of the more well-known and widely discussed of the cryptids that are out there. They are these creatures that are extraordinarily large, move unbelievably fast. They are just adept and comfortable in the most rugged of wilds, and they seem to excel in our absence. Now, some of the other things that are just bizarre are these other creatures that seem to not be so easily identifiable. They may appear to change shape. They may appear to be physically impossible. And we're going to get into a few of these tonight on our show. Again, these Bedtime Stories from Beyond episodes are a smaller version of the portal, and hopefully it allows more people to take part in the discussions and enjoy the portal, as I hope they will. So, strange creatures is our topic tonight, and again, I've had my own encounter with what I believe was a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot. And it happened back in Minnesota, where I hail from. And it's a story that I've shared many times on the show. Quite a while now since I've discussed it, but it's one you can find in our archives if you dig. And I wish I could tell you which episode I mentioned it on. In fact, maybe I'll do one of these Bedtime Stories from Beyond, just kind of documenting my own experiences, just kind of put them in one place. Some of the most profound ones that at least I can remember. But, this will be our discussion tonight, and I hope you enjoy it. So, again, some of these creatures that we talk about tonight, they're well known. They're widely discussed, and there's so many groups and peoples that are dedicating a lot of their time and energy and blood, sweat, and tears to research them and try to understand what exactly they are. The range of ideas, even for, let's say, Bigfoot, for example, the range of ideas and hypotheses of what they are is as broad as the whole paranormal itself. There are those that believe they are a spiritual being. There are those that believe that they are an extraterrestrial being. There are those that believe that they are just a different kind of humanoid that somehow made it up the evolutionary chain. And there are those believe that they are more of an ape-like, animalistic creature that is intelligent, but has so far evaded our complete awareness. Although there are footprints, there are physical evidences that have been recovered, casted prints, hair, allegedly fecal samples, as well as some reported blood samples as well. So there is pieces of alleged physical evidence to suggest that they definitely are there, and but the ideas of what they are is kind of the crux of the whole thing. And no opinion is right or wrong because we just don't know. But the camps are pretty cauterized in between who believes what and what they think about the other camps or schools of thought. And that can create a hindrance at times, but I like the portal to be a discussion of all ideas. I know what I personally believe, but I don't believe that the portal should be a reflection of just my personal beliefs. So let's get into a few of these tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about some accounts and some encounters and see what people are reported seeing. So the first one is I saw something that looked like a humanoid. It was in the woods just outside my childhood home. This is rural northern Wisconsin, and if you've ever been to rural northern Wisconsin, you'll know it's really pretty rugged and very lightly populated throughout the majority of it. But it's not hard to believe that there could be a lot of things up there that haven't been discovered. So this person was about 14. Up until that day, I had absolutely no fear of the woods. I spent most of my time out there exploring and being afraid of absolutely nothing. My parents had a terrible marriage and fought all the time, and I felt more at home outside than in the house. On really hot nights, I'd take a sleeping bag and sleep on the roof of an old shack on our property. I saw bears, I saw wolves, and they were always more afraid of me than I was of them. I didn't really believe in anything like ghosts or Bigfoot or demons or even God. I only got lost out there once when dark fell sooner than I had expected, and I stayed calm and found the North Star, and I knew that if I continued south, I'd eventually come across the old railroad tracks near my house. Even the thought of spending the night out there didn't bother me in the least. The thought of Mom's rage when I didn't come home, however, terrified me. So it was summer, and I just turned 14 years old, and my mom had left my dad. Dad worked all the time, and my sister was living on her own. And once school was out, it was literally just me and my cat, and this is way before the internet or any kind of smartphones. We lived on a dead-end dirt road, and about noon, I took my everyday stroll down the long driveway to check the mail. My cat followed me everywhere, and I kind of relied on him to give me a heads up if there was anything around, like a bear or some other animal close by. A bit of movement behind me as I stood at the mailbox made me realize that something was across the road in the trees. But there were always these deer all over the place, and so I didn't think much of it. I heard a loud crash, and then it sounded like something very loudly pushing its way through the brush. It's like every horror movie. My brain had no capability for the thought of anything being paranormal or spooky, and I simply tucked the mail under my arm and went into the woods to check it out. My cat followed close behind. I got about 10 yards in when I noticed what I hadn't noticed before. It was absolutely dead quiet. There was no noise. Nothing. It was a beautiful day in about the middle of June, and there wasn't a single bird singing, no insect noise, no leaves blowing around. It was deadly silent. At the same time I realized the silence, I got an eerie feeling that something was watching me. I stopped absolutely still and started scanning the woods for deer. Hunters know what I'm talking about when I say you look for the shape of a deer instead of trying to look for their color. And that's when I spotted it. 2 furry brown legs, and the top of it concealed by the tree that it was standing in. I went to sigh with relief when my cat absolutely hissed. I looked down and he was absolutely poofed out with his back arched, looking at the same thing I was. I looked back and the legs moved. Not a deer. Like a human. Everything happened all at once after that. I dropped the mail, picked up the cat by his neck, and ran for it. Whoever was out there with me was running after me. I never ran so fast in my entire life. I flew up the driveway and into the house and slammed and locked the doors and I grabbed the phone. I called the neighbor, who is a ex-chief of police, and he came over immediately with his pistol. He checked out the spot I was in and found nothing. I was so hysterical I was in tears, and he stayed there with me until I was able to get a hold of my mom and have her come get me. Of course, they thought I was on drugs or delusional. I know exactly what I saw and felt. It was broad daylight, and I never felt safe in those woods again, and never slept outside either. So that to me sounds like a pretty typical Sasquatch kind of experience. Not that it couldn't be a dogman or some other cryptid, but the silence in the woods is something I've experienced a few times. And I'm not claiming that silence in the woods would indicate a Sasquatch. Certainly not. But the nature seems to know when there's a high tension, when there's a high energy. Nature seems to know, from the bugs to the birds to everything. And I've experienced when a forest goes dead quiet and you hear every little thing and all the sound just suddenly gets magnified, and it's this intense feeling because you don't really know why it's quiet. You just know that something's not right. And then to feel that the weight of something looking at you as well would have to be extraordinarily terrifying. So a very intense experience, but again, the person didn't get hurt, but it must have been, in that moment, I'm sure that what he or she felt was just like, am I going to die? So, very cool story. Now, the next one I'm going to read to you is one of those that seems to defy explanation. And, we, of course, being interested in the paranormal, you've got to have an open mind. But sometimes there's some claims that are hard to grasp utilizing your normal methodology of observing the world. I mean, some things seem, like they're plausible, like that makes sense that could happen. And other things just stretch our imagination beyond what we believe is even conceivable. And this is one of those stories, but I would like to add that there are many legends of this kind of story, of this kind of tale in a lot of First Nations. So the idea of things changing is not an absolutely foreign or unheard of idea. It's just hard for most of us with a Western mindset to grasp the possibilities that are out there. Is it possible? I suppose it is, but sometimes it's hard for it to seem plausible. So, again, thank you to all of you that are in here. That's wonderful. So this one is, I was a baby when this incident happened, but it happened to my sister, who was about 5 years old at the time. My cousins, aunts, and uncles were at a birthday party one Saturday at my grandmother's house in Houston. All the adults were in the house around dusk, but the older cousins, ranging from about 4 to 8, and my sister were outside playing. My sister isn't sure who noticed the bird in the tree first, but soon all the cousins noticed it as well. The bird was perched on one of the lower branches, just staring at them. Before their horrified eyes, the bird began transforming until it was a woman sitting in the branch leering at them. As they began shouting and screaming for their parents, the woman became a bird again, and by this time, the parents had come out to investigate the commotion, but the bird wouldn't budge. Not until my grandmother, a formidable and salt of the earth type of woman, went outside, did the bird fly off. The house is creepy. It's still in our family, and I've had some other strange things happen there, as did my mom, and it's been in the family since my parents were young teens. My cousin owns it now, and it's still creepy and old, and he doesn't really like living in the little yellow house either. But in the beautiful roses my grandmother planted, strange things have been found. Animal bones, guts, melted candles, and other witchcraft type of things. A lady in white has been seen moving from room to room in the past by guests of the house. Now, I think that's a story that we've shared on the show before, but it just, even though even though I realized that part of the way through, it's still a really magnificent example of somebody witnessing something that just defies explanation. Like, how can a person become another form entirely? How can a full-grown person become a bird? How could a full-grown person become a deer, become an elk, become a bear? You know, in a lot of Native American First Nations stories and legends, those kind of things are not uncommon at all. Then, of course, you hear things about the skinwalkers and such. So these ideas are out there and have been out there for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years. So is it possible? I believe it is. I don't understand the mechanics of it. I don't understand what has to take place for this to happen. But to sit on any kind of intellectual high ground and say, well, that's not possible, I think excludes yourself from imagining possibilities of the dynamic nature of reality. And so I think you have to embrace it all as potential. And understanding how, I understand that's going to be incredibly tough for most of us to get our heads around. But I don't think it's wise to dismiss possibility either. So I'm just, it's just my opinion. Some of you out there may be going, whatever, dude, that's just wacky. And I understand that too. But just saying, got to keep an open mind. If you can believe that beings can travel, millions of light years to visit us, if they can control people's minds, if they can abduct, if there can be tall, hairy, gorilla-type creatures running around and stalking people, if there can be once living people that are deceased that, can still interact with our world, and other spiritual beings, if there can be a devil, if there can be angels, if there can be a God, then you have to understand that the realm of what's possible is suddenly pretty huge. So the next one I thought was pretty cool was another one that really stretches the imagination, and it's this is the last story. Of course, is it's a tough one for a lot of people, but it's not unheard of. This one is one of those that I can't ever remember hearing anything like this before, unless we've shared it on the show, which is possible. But here it goes. So I used to live in Vancouver, Washington, on a cul-de-sac, Orchard Del Court. It was a T-shaped cul-de-sac with another road off the side to another T, or to the T. So I was heading to school about 8 in the morning. I only had to walk about a block from my house to where a cul-de-sac meets the main road, St. James Road, and this is your typical everyday route that I took. However, that morning was different. When I got close to St. James, I looked up from my feet, and across the road was what I can only describe as a being, a creature. It was made up entirely of black spheres. In the shape of a man, it definitely had 2 legs, 2 arms, a torso, and a head. But again, all made up of black spheres about a foot wide, a little bigger than a basketball, and all the spheres seemed to have a texture to them that I had never seen before. That's creepy enough, but it was dancing around a pole across the street. This one does sound familiar too. The thing is, and that's really hard to convey, is that this thing projected nothing but pure malevolence. I felt that this thing was completely evil. Really, really evil. And I would say it was evil. I would not say it was just evil. It was just really evil or dark. It's like the difference between saying a man can be evil, but a man can also be good. This thing could not have had the possibility of being good. There was just no way. It was just bad. Anyways, when I looked at it, it stopped dancing, looked at me, and just popped out of existence. It didn't fade. It didn't make any sound. It was just there one moment, and the next moment it was completely gone. I was incredibly freaked out, but it's not like I was hurt or felt bad. I was just completely freaked out. Anyways, I just went to school like normal, if not a little shaken. Well, that night there was some kids racing cars drunk, and there were 4 or 5 people killed. The driver and all the passengers all died instantly. And when I went out there with my father to the corner where it had happened, I was absolutely shocked because it was the exact same intersection where I saw that thing the previous morning. I can't help but think I saw something strange that morning, something I wasn't supposed to see. Whatever that creature was, it was completely bad news. And that's a really cool story. Again, is it just a kind of a random manifestation? I do believe that spiritual beings can probably choose how they want to be seen. And perhaps sometimes they just choose to look completely foreign. I don't know. Very strange, though. I hope you guys are liking these. I think they're pretty awesome. The next one is this one. No, not this one. I'm not going to read that one. Okay, this one is pretty short. This is a story that happened to my mom. When she and my aunt were young, they were playing with some neighborhood kids in the woods across the street from the house they lived in, and she claims that they heard a noise from above them, looked up, and saw something crouching in the branches of the trees. She said it was humanoid, about 7 to 8 feet tall, completely covered in fur, and as soon as it noticed them, it leaped down from the tree and sprinted further into the woods. Of course, they were all absolutely terrified, and they ran back to their house. They never saw it again, but both my mom and my aunt swear that this actually happened. And again, that doesn't sound too far out. There's a lot of encounters with Sasquatch that mirror that same modality. Like as Bear says when he's on the show, like we are their entertainment. We are what they do for entertainment. Like when they're bored just looking at sticks and rocks and stuff, I guess they like to come check out and see what we're doing. And when you think about it, wouldn't you? If you, I mean, we love to escape to the wilderness. To us, it's a recharging experience because it just lets everything melt away. We just get that natural vibe and we feel refreshed. But imagine living in that every day for years. And yet you see and hear and are aware of these sights, sounds, and smells of this really foreign nature. And so it's intriguing if they have an intelligence at all, which I believe they do. It makes perfect sense that they would want to come and see what we're doing because we are their television, as Bear says. We are what they do for entertainment. They watch us. They observe, and perhaps they even learn quite a bit just by sitting there watching us. So I'm sure that this thing was probably watching these children play, and it was probably enjoying watching that. It was entertaining. And then once the children realized it was there, it was like, oh, they saw me. Shoot, I got to go. For whatever reason, these beings choose our absence. They choose not to be interacting and involved with us at all. But I still think their curiosity gets the better of them, and that's perhaps why we have sightings at all, is because they are curious, and they probably get into situations like, oh, shoot, they did see me. And then they have to retreat back to their natural place. There's other examples of them being seen, and they just kind of glance and go, yeah, whatever, and they continue on their way. And if you were 9 or 10 feet tall and, the size of the Incredible Hulk, I can't imagine you'd be too intimidated by a little, a little wee little thing. So it's probably just like, yeah, whatever. What are you going to do about it? So very cool experiences. Those are the tales that I want to cover with you guys tonight, and I hope you guys are enjoying these. Again, they're little bite-sized portions of the portal, but with some thoughts, with some ideas, with some theories and philosophy behind it. But I have to thank you all 20 of you are in our chat room. Thanks so much for being here and taking a part in it. Again, these Bedtime Stories from Beyond will be coming. I'm planning on doing them every night that we don't have a normally scheduled portal, which are 2-hour shows, obviously. And I just hope that these smaller versions are make it easier for a lot more people to check out what we're doing here on the show. And maybe they'll want to tune in to the 2-hour shows. But I love you all so much. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And I see a lot of you in the chat room. Ruthie, Haxer, Gentry Coda, Taz. Let's see who was in here. Deb's in there. Hey, Deb. Looking up the names. I wish they'd give us a list so I could see just in a list who's here. But Renee, Lena. How you doing, Lena? Aloha. Harmony. Jim Mount. How you doing, Jim? Jim will be back on the show, I think... December 1st. That's right. Jim's going to be back on the show December 1st. So look for that, ladies and gentlemen. Diana Daniels Orcutt is in here. Still going through the list. And Dana Sizemore. Hi, Dana. Great to see you. And Chell Adams. How you doing, Chell? Great to see you. And have I missed anybody? I'm sorry if I have. I'm going through the list. I know Lewis is in here, and maybe Ken's around too. It's always nice to see Ken from down under. Oh, Ian, Sean's in here. Good to see you, Sean. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm just cruising through the list here. But I think that's everybody. So thank you guys for being here and being a part of it. Again, we'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow night for another portal. And what we're going to discuss is along the lines of the missing 411 stuff. I found some interesting accounts of people having close calls. So we will check those out tomorrow night on the Friday edition of the Portal. And then on Saturday, we will be joined by Shell Dion again here on the show with Don and I. And that should be a great journey. I'm just really looking forward to that show. So love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. And thank you again for tuning in to the Bedtime Stories from Beyond. And let me know in the comments if there's something you'd like to see me cover on these. And again, one more time, if you have an account, paranormal, cryptid, weird, missing times, UFO, that you would like to submit, I will be happy to do one of these paranormal or bedtime stories from beyond about your encounter. So if you wanna have me cover one of these, one of your stories on one of the shows, email it to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. So we'll talk to you guys tomorrow night. Take care. Be good. And I will see you soon.